It's Aloha Friday. Are you ready for tomorrow? What? It's Breakfast with Bob.
And our main man, Poncho Man. Aloha Friday. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're at Breakfast with Bob. Huggos on the Rocks, EAS, Myoplex, Polar, Hoka One, Velo Fix, Norma Tech, Four Seasons Walleye will be hosting our championship edition. Emio Power Breather, and every one of our guests today will be receiving a Velo Fix certificate, including Mr. Jim Vance, Coach to the Stars. How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am wonderful. And you've had a big breakthrough this year with our boy Ben Kanute, who was 2016 Olympian, and this year jumped into a little bit of 70.3 action, and had third in Puerto Rico, and then he did a great race in St. George, but second at the World Championships in Chattanooga. That was pretty impressive.
It was a hell of a year. I was just happy for him.
Yes.
His work ethic, his commitment, is. It's probably unrivaled from any athlete I've ever worked with.
Really?
He was very decisive. We made a plan, and I said, "Here's what I think we should do," and boom.
Yes.
He does it. And he brings that out on the race course, which is always awesome. I've even in an ITU race where there's so many variables that he's been a part of. He's able to take the strategy that we say that we determine, and we're like, this is the strategy we're going to do, and he's able to execute it to the T, which has been. It's just incredible, and and then you saw that really where there aren't so many variables in Chattanooga, where it's more mano a mano,
right?
And that's kind of what he did. He did his plan to the T, and he had a wonderful day, and I'm just so happy for him, and it's a breakthrough, and I love the term that they said, Kanutians. Like all the guys are like, now I'm a Kanutian.
I'm a fan.
Yes, because of his racing style.
Well, his racing style, and I saw that a couple of years ago when the final ITU race, World Championship in Chicago, he went off the front and didn't hesitate. Hometown, going off the front. And he knew that he was probably going to be a little challenged during that run with Mario Mola and Javier Gomez, but those guys ran 28:59, 29:12. He put it out there, and then when you saw at Chattanooga, and you've got Javier Gomez sort of forced to run a 110 to win the race.
Yes. Ben
put it in a position where if the guy doesn't perform to his Hall of Fame ability, he's not going to win. That's an art. And this year at those ITU races, I there was a point there I think where he was frustrated, feeling like people weren't really working with him, and you guys changed the philosophy.
Well, yeah, you're right. It was a frustrating time because he was trying to always get people to work with him.
Yes.
And then we decided we're not depending on anybody else anymore. We're just going to go and force people to make a decision. And
right.
The ones who are committed will go, rather than the ones who are just trying to suck a wheel.
Right, and wait for the run.
Yes. So, that really changed things. And then, at the time he was like, well, Jim, this is kind of different. This goes against everything I've been told to do.
Right.
And I said, well, what you've been told to do, where has it gotten us? So time for a change. And I said, even if we fail, we'll at least prove whether or not we have the right strategy going in Chattanooga. And he went to Montreal, took it off, was in a breakaway. All the top runners suffered. And that was the game changer right there. And his confidence, he walked away knowing, like, okay, we did the strategy exactly as we said.
Yes.
We just got beat. And
that's okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, but if you're always able to execute your strategy
yes.
that meets your strengths, especially in ITU, you're going to hit a few of those. You're going to have some good performances. So he had that, and it was a great day in Chattanooga because that was one of those times where it hit. And I think for Ben, Ben's been in our system. A lot of people don't know this, but Ben's been under our coaching umbrella since he was before he was a teenager.
Yeah.
I started working with him when he was 14.
Okay.
Around and having kind of a say, and not really having a say, but giving some input and monitoring his progress, because Zuko was one of his coaches. Keith Dixon was a guy who helped started that group, Multisport Madness, that produced Lucas Verzbickas, Kevin McDowell, Ben, Kelly Whitley. I mean, it was, you had a hell of a group there. So it's been a system that we've kind of put in place with Training Bible and Superfly, and now it's just, Ben is really the product of that system.
Tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, well, let's hope. Yeah, that's the general plan.
So when a guy finishes second at 70.3 Worlds, and if you look at he gets 20th and 30th and things like that, ITU races, immediately comes to 70.3 and third, fifth, or second, you go, okay, his strength is there.
Yeah.
And yes, the Olympics are coming up in 2020, but 2020 is a long way away. What are the plans between now and then?
Well, I think Ben would tell you there's no doubt that his best opportunity for an Olympic medal is the mixed team relay in 2020.
2020, and that'll be the first time that's run.
That's be the first time that's run, and he is so about the mixed team relay. That's why you see him in Major League Triathlon. That's why you see him in Hamburg every year for that. He's all about it, and quite honestly, he has the best resume of anybody in the country, any American. I mean, he's clearly one of the best mixed team relay athletes because that type of racing suits his strengths, because it's not 75 guys in a pack. It's, you got 25 guys on the course maybe, and they're already strung out by the time he gets it. So it's more mano-a-mano, or, him against 4 rather than him against 60 or 30 or something like that. So he's got that opportunity to really do well, and his swim and his bike prowess really do him well there. And then, my job when he came to me was make me a faster runner, and on top of all this, and let's show it. So, yes, long term, do I think you'll see Ben Kanute here in Kona at some point? Absolutely. But
after 2020.
Yeah, after 2020. How long after 2020? That's up to Ben. Here's the thing too. There's an evolution of this sport. There was a part where the before, the now, and you always got to look towards the future.
Sure.
Where's the sport going to be? I think by 2021 or 2022, we're probably going to see a different draft zone on the bike. And if that happens,
it'd be even better for him.
Yeah, even better. So there's no rush. There's no rush for him to come into this. And as long as we continue to work on his speed and his turnover, and getting him faster, he
can mix these in, because it's a lot of times you start stepping up longer, you lose your speed.
Exactly. So we're going to take our time. I mean, people don't realize this guy's only 24. He's only 24. I mean, 3-4 years, now he'll still only be 27.
Right.
He really won't even hit his prime yet.
No.
For an endurance athlete.
Exactly.
So we're in no rush. And it's cool to kind of sit on the side, and it'll be interesting to see how guys like Brownlee and Gomez do in this field, and change things up. I mean, you just got to wonder. Somebody asked me last night, what if Brownlee was in Chattanooga? He changes the dynamic of that race entirely, because I don't think Gomez lets Kanute go.
No.
I think Gomez is because Brownlee won't let Kanute go.
No.
Brownlee would have been
he would have been right with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden Gomez has to make a big decision, because he would have been in no man's land.
With Alistair off the front, with Ben.
With Ben.
Yeah.
So does he blow it? I mean, I'll go back to it. Ben was probably one calf cramp or hamstring cramp from Gomez away from being world champion.
No question.
I mean, one small mistake, and Gomez did exactly what we wanted him to. He did everything played right in our hands. We knew he would be aggressive on the run early. And that just plays it. And he even said after the race, I had to take a lot of risk that first lap of the run, because I had to
make up ground.
Yeah, make up the ground. And that's exactly what we needed, exactly what we wanted. Because when he takes risk, and Ben's off the front running steady, we're taking very little risk.
Yes.
Gomez was taking all the risk. We forced him to take the risk.
It paid off for him, but it could have gone the other way.
We got beat. But again, we walk away, head high. We played our cards. We played to our strengths. And hell, that's the beauty of the sport.
So you've been out here a number of years, and you're usually out at mile 1, tracking what people run for that first mile, the pros, and then also tracking what their run pace ends up being for the day, for the marathon. And for the Bart Arnotts of the world, people like that, they tend to be pretty evenly paced and always seem to run good marathons here. What have you gathered from that information that you've seen over the years in terms of how these people run that first mile?
Well, this is, believe it or not, the last 2 years, Ben was out there with me.
Yes,
helping me.
Ben Kanute,
yeah, he was out here just kind of viewing the race, soaking in the atmosphere. It's generally the end of his season. So he's out here, and he's seeing what I'm showing him.
Right.
He's seeing it firsthand, like, man, these guys are just running crazy. And that really helped us towards Chattanooga, believe it or not, because now I've been big on him on pacing correctly. Mm-hmm. And, obviously we use Stride, the power meter for running to kind of help show that and get him to buy in, because he's big into data, which has really made our relationship great. So he's been able to see that firsthand. A lot of people saw Patrick Lang last year. Yes. And they're thinking, oh, Vance, you're full of it. It's all BS. You can push that first mile and you'll be fine. It's like, people don't understand. Like, people think he pushed the first mile because he ran so fast overall. No, he did. I've always said you have to stay within 5% of what you're going to run overall.
Right.
If
for that first mile.
For that first mile. If you go over 5%, you are going to pay the price, because physiologically you just can't have it. You just can't handle it. Everybody. Bob, let's say, so 5% is about 20 seconds for these pros.
Right.
So I never say, hey, go do this marathon. It's going to start in the morning, and you're going to run your first mile 20 seconds faster than what we're actually going to pace for the whole race. You'd be like, well,
no way.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing here. That's exactly what they're doing. And so, and they're doing it here with this sun on this hot, with this hot lava after a day of 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and these crosswinds, and they're just coated in salt and dying, and their back's tight, and then they're like, ah!
Well, but here's the deal. They've been living in a cocoon of nothing out in the freaking lava fields for the last 4 hours, 5 hours. No people out there at all.
Yep.
And then you come here, and it's a carnival.
It is.
And there's people all over the place. And even though these are the best in the world, they're like, oh, my God, look at all these people. I'm going to run fast.
Yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right. It messes with their mind. And here's the thing.
Which is fun.
Yeah,
That's what makes it great.
This stretch right here is probably one of the coolest stretches in the sport. From right around in our background here,
yes,
which is right about the mile marker right there, until as you come up over this hill here,
yes,
a little bit of this crest, because especially about when the men are about to, it's the mile mark going out, it's the 15K coming back,
yes,
and they're right there across the street from each other, and it is mayhem when the men are coming through and the motorcycles are honking. You think you're in the Tour de France.
Right.
The street is lined up. People are yelling and screaming. The women are coming through. The men are coming back the other way. It's one of the coolest scenes in the sport, and I love it. And I would never have even thought to absorb that moment if I hadn't been looking at that. But let me go back to Patrick Lang.
Yes.
Everybody thinks, well, he did it. Patrick Lang, his first 2K, because yes, you can look at his Strava file. Believe it or not, he was so far back that I never even got a first mile split. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But luckily, he put his Strava file out there. He put it on Strava and his run. 3:38 was his first kilometer, I want to say. His next one was 3:42. But anyway, he averaged 3:40 for the first 2K.
Right.
So we can look at 2K. Now, it may have even been 3:36 was his first one, but it was a little fast. But people don't understand, too, he was coming from the penalty box.
Yes, so he was fresh.
Yeah, he'd spent 3 minutes just sitting and relaxing. So yeah, he wasn't, he'd kind of gathered himself and was finding a rhythm. Of course, he felt good. But you look at it, his first 2K was 3:40. His overall pace was 3:48 per K.
Oh, so he's within 8 seconds.
He's 4%.
Yes.
4%.
Okay.
It's like, that's the point. If these guys continue to do that, and I'll go back to Ben.
Yes.
We knew that was going to happen. We knew Gomez would do that. And Gomez was even trailing 1K into 70.3 because Keenley, Appleton, Don.
They went out even harder.
They went out even harder.
Yeah.
And if you look at the data from Chattanooga, there's a point at 9.3K, there's a timing mat. And the race changes at that point. They were gaining on Ben. They stopped gaining on Ben. Appleton goes backwards from Ben, along with Keenley.
Yep.
They no longer gain time. Ben gains time back on them.
Yep.
Meanwhile, Gomez obviously continues to gain time. Don continues to gain time, but nowhere near the rate that he was. He settled in, was struggling, and never ends up catching Kanute.
Right.
And that's the thing. And I listened to the broadcast while I'm watching it, and they're going through the narrative of which has historically been Ben, and that's that he's going to blow up. But what people don't realize is I'm watching that, and there's two things that I saw. The first was the body language of the guys on their bikes. Ben was smooth and in control. Other guys I saw were fighting their bike. So I'm able to see that.
Sure.
As I'm watching the race. So as they're fighting the bike, I'm realizing this is gonna take a toll. Ben's nice and smooth and consistent, and Ben did exactly what we trained for. I mean, it was no surprise. His numbers were not out of the park. Like, oh my God! In fact, they were a tad lower. Watching the race, I was like, he might be going too hard, but luckily his numbers were a little low. Then he gets on the run, and he's immediately looking at his watch. And I know people are thinking, well, okay, he's checking out his pace. No, we never had a pace in mind.
Power.
It was all about power. We used the stride football. We said, here, you're going to run 340 watts or less. You are not allowed to go over 340 watts. Absolutely. I don't care. Because, a lot of people don't know this. Chattanooga was tough.
That's a tough course.
It had 1,000-foot elevation gain. I mean, that's like St. George, I think, was only like 1,200. I mean, St. George was like this,
right?
If you're there. So, but I mean, it was just so tough. So he's out there, you can't set a pace. You can't say, well, go run this pace for the first one. You don't know what you're going to be able to do. But I can say, run this power, hold back, use the power meter to just settle your, dial in your intensity. His first mile was 5:44. He averaged 5:48. So we're talking about Patrick Lang being 4 seconds per K.
Yes.
That's pretty darn good. Now we're talking in terms of differential, or 8 seconds per K rather. We're talking 4 seconds per mile is the difference that he was in. So I mean, that's where he nailed it out of the park. And as I was watching, I was like, this is gonna be a good race. Now I was a little worried, like, will we still have the gas late? Because like I said, I wasn't sure if he had gone too hard on the bike, but obviously he had it, so it was a hell of a day.
This year, what are the plans for him this year?
He has Island House.
Okay, he's just right. So
Island House is going to have a stellar field.
Oh yeah,
and he says, hey, that's an A race for me.
Yes,
and he's just, his confidence continues to grow. If you watch Super League, Super League was just incredible for him. And I told him, look, just stay in there in the eliminator, go round by round, be in that last race. That race is like the mixed team relay. Guys are split up. There's not the pack anymore. Your strength will show late.
Right.
And sure enough, he beats Mola in the last race. Hell, he almost got fifth in that last race. He settles for seventh. That was so cool to watch. I had my juniors over to the house, and we just put it on the TV, and we watched it and cheered him each round, and it was a great day.
So over the years, the American women have been doing great Olympic-wise, right? When Jorgensen, Katie Zafaris, and making and then you've got Summer Cook. There's so many great women. The guys, we've got Ben Kanute, right? At this point, who do you see that we're developing new guys who will be a factor in 2020?
We do. I mean, if you look at our junior, the U.S. has probably the best junior development system in the world. There's tons of countries that would love to have our junior development system. Look at last year we produced Austin Hinman and Taylor Knibb.
Yes.
Both junior world champions for one nation.
Right.
And, Austin's got, Austin went 8:43 for 2 miles on the track. Those are Steve Prefontaine times.
Right.
We're talking legit. Dar Smith is another kid coming up. We've got, we even have a few guys that are coming from the collegiate system that we're trying to bring in, and whose names you don't know, but you're probably going to learn a little bit about them soon. So, and that's the thing. It's not going to be an easy thing for Ben. Ben doesn't have, Tokyo wrapped up in terms of an Olympic spot.
Not yet.
No, not at all. So, as these guys continue to develop, we'll see. But, the U.S. men are on a good trajectory. We just did kind of a powwow to say, okay, what's the U.S. men's situation? Where are we missing? And what changes do we need to make? All ideas, let's throw them out on the table and let's see. So we had all the heads of state from, all sorts of, from the USOC to USAT to, we even brought in some USA cycling people, some field hockey people. What are you guys doing? What's this? We had Neil Henderson, some of the top coaches, myself, Jenny Weber, who coached Austin, coached Tamara Gorman to U23 Worlds Championship this year. So we had a huge group, and a lot of ideas and discussion, and okay, here's where we're going to go next, and that was led by Rocky and Barry.
Yep.
From USAT. So, yeah, it's
very cool.
Just some great stuff. I mean, we're getting there. I don't know that we'll have an individual Olympic medal contender in 2020. That's going to be tough.
Yes.
For the U.S. But
it's a long play.
It is.
Love
absolutely.
It. Jimmy, thanks so much for taking time. Always a pleasure to get your insight. Jimmy Vance has been our guest. Poncho Man, take us out.
It's Aloha Friday. Big races tomorrow. And it's prefaced with bye.